August 2nd, 2011. Robyn Gardner. 35-year-old female Robyn Gardner was last seen in Oranjstad, Aruba on August 2nd, 2011. A weekend island getaway with a secret lover has led to a young woman's disappearance. Was the 35-year-old from Bethesda, Maryland, a victim of the ocean currents while on a snorkeling excursion, or was her traveling partner more involved in her disappearance than he is letting on? In July of 2011, recently unemployed Robyn Gardner told her live-in boyfriend of 2.5 years, Robert Forrester, that she'd be leaving town to visit family in Orlando, Florida for several days. On the day before she left, she told Robert she was in fact going to Aruba on a surprise trip from her parents. In reality, Robyn would be flying to the South Caribbean island of Aruba with a man she had met through an online dating site a 1.5 years before. The man she was meeting was 50-year-old Baltimore businessman Gary Giordano. According to friends, the two had a rocky on and off again relationship for the past year, sometimes not communicating for months. Robyn and Giordano arrived in Aruba on July 31st and were staying at a resort and casino in Oranjstad, which would be the location Robyn was last seen at. On the afternoon of August 2nd, according to Giordano, the two had been out for a snorkeling excursion at Baby Beach, where the 50-year-old claims the last time he saw Robyn was when he tapped her leg underwater, signaling her to return to shore. Giordano claims that when back on shore, Robyn was nowhere to be seen, and he immediately feared a current or riptide had swept the young woman out to sea. Authorities were never able to confirm the snorkeling story, although Giordano claims to be a certified scuba diver, which makes Robyn's disappearance while snorkeling even more puzzling. Gardner's family and boyfriend back in Maryland immediately cast doubt on the snorkeling story, claiming Gardner had no interest in snorkeling or swimming and was more of a margarita by the pool type of girl. Robyn had communicated with her boyfriend in Maryland the entire time while she was in Aruba, with her last social media post at 2 a.m. on August 2nd simply saying, "This sucks." Was this an indication of trouble in paradise? Or had Robyn discovered something about Giordano or Aruba that she hadn't known before? Robert said his last message from her was a text, in which he claims she said, "I love you, we'll talk and sort things out when I get back." Giordano reported Robyn missing to Aruban authorities around 6 p.m. that evening. Further confusing the timeline was a report of Robyn leaving a restaurant around 4 p.m. that afternoon. Local authorities searched the area around Baby Beach, including with cadaver dogs, but there was no sign of Robyn. A few days later, Giordano attempted to leave Aruba but was detained by authorities, who wanted to pursue further questioning. Aruban authorities had also found out that only 2 days after Robyn's disappearance, Giordano attempted to file a $1.5 million life insurance claim for a policy he had taken on Robyn before their trip. The claim would be denied. The insurance company disputed his claim that they were partners, but he would go on to sue them for a payout, but the case was tossed, and it was Giordano who would eventually get sued by the insurance company for making a fraudulent claim. Giordano was held in Aruba until November of 2011, eventually being released due to a lack of evidence to charge him in Robyn's disappearance. As the last known person to have seen Robyn, Giordano became the subject of intense scrutiny, particularly his past with women. What emerged was a less than comforting story about the Baltimore businessman. This included numerous accounts from women who had dated Giordano in the past, and who had filed restraining orders against him, accusing him of stalking and harassment. Initially, the search for Robyn was being aided by the family of another woman who had gone missing in Aruba just 6 years before, Natalie Holloway. But the tip line the Holloways had helped set up ended up coming up empty. In 2014, someone investigating the Holloway case claimed to find bone fragments from a Caucasian female on the island, but after laboratory analysis, the bones were determined not to be from Holloway or Gardner. Giordano has always claimed Robyn drowned that day while snorkeling, and that the remote beach the couple were at was also the site of 2 other drownings. Although the bodies of the 2 other drowning victims were recovered, Robyn's never was. In 2014, Giordano released a book and went on several U.S. media outlets claiming he wanted to clear his name, but many critics accused him of exploiting Robyn's disappearance. Among the many shocking new claims Giordano was now making was an insinuation that Robyn had worked as a call girl, although he made clear that she was not on the Aruba trip with him in that capacity, but rather just as friends. This allegation about Robyn's past has not been confirmed. Did Robyn drown while snorkeling on a secret getaway to Aruba? Or was she the victim of a predatory man, set up in a scheme built to lure certain types of women to Aruba, where they would be abducted by sex traffickers? This story was supported by a Pennsylvania woman who claimed Giordano had harassed her and her teenage daughter to go to the islands with him, but they had refused. This has led some to speculate Giordano was involved with traffickers, and that Robyn was just one of many women he had lured to the Caribbean with the promise of a free trip. Giordano later mentioned in an interview with ABC News that Robyn may have been a victim of such a crime, although he still maintains his innocence and claims she was in fact a victim of the ocean and disappeared while snorkeling. Initially receiving a lot of media coverage, Robyn's case has grown cold, and updates have been few and far between. Although her family and former boyfriend remain hopeful she can be found alive and will return home, they continue to provide updates about Robyn on their social media pages. Robyn Gardner is 5 feet 4 inches tall, 115 pounds, with a tattoo on her left shoulder. If you have any information on the whereabouts of Robyn Gardner, please contact the U.S. Consulate in Aruba or the FBI, where you can submit an anonymous tip online at tips.fbi.gov. September 18, 2019. Lucy Schuhmann. 48-year-old female Lucy Schuhmann was last seen in St. John, U.S. Virgin Islands, on Wednesday, September 18, 2019. A hike through paradise that turned into a maze of unresolved questions. What happened to the solo traveler who vanished one afternoon, never returning to her vacation rental, leaving behind her belongings and a cryptic trail of clues with no answers? 48-year-old Lucy Schuhmann had a love for St. John's. She had been to the Caribbean island several times before, and reportedly had many friends who lived there. So it was no surprise when the med student from Louisville, Kentucky, booked a trip alone in September 2019 to go to the island for some recreation and personal peace. Not much has been made about Lucy's private life. The majority of what is known has been provided by people who claim to be friends of hers from either medical school, her past as a pilot, or from St. John's. It didn't become known until later, but this trip to the island for Lucy was different than ones in the past. For starters, she wouldn't be staying for free with friends. Instead, she booked her own private accommodations, and she kept her arrival and travel plans private. It was later revealed she hadn't even told her friends that she was visiting the island. Nothing is known of Lucy's activities or the people she spoke with after her arrival up until Wednesday, September 18th, when Lucy left her vacation rental for a day of outdoor recreation and tropical beauty. The evidence suggests that she was planning on going for a hike in the Virgin Islands National Park around 8 a.m. that morning. That would be the last time anyone would see Lucy Schuhmann. 2 days later, on Friday, September 20th, the owner of the Coral Bay vacation property that Lucy had rented called 911 around 6:30 in the evening. The owner had become alarmed when Lucy had not returned the keys and checked out as planned the day before, Thursday. They were also concerned she had left behind her belongings at the property, including her cell phone. It soon became known that on the 19th, Lucy had also failed to return a rented yellow Jeep Wrangler. As authorities began to search for Lucy, the first of many gaping holes in the case appeared. What had she been doing so far on this trip? Had she seen or met anyone? What was her mental state like? Was there security camera footage of her somewhere on the island? Unfortunately, there would be no answers for any of those questions. Investigators caught a break when the rented yellow Jeep Wrangler she had been driving was found in a parking lot in the Salt Pond area in the national park. But there was nothing inside to indicate what may have happened to Lucy. While searching the park, investigators also found a day pack belonging to Lucy located near the edge of a cliff by the top of Ram Head Trail. The discovery of the day pack, with its change of clothes and her ID, would only lead to more questions. Did Lucy leave the day pack while on a hike, or was it placed there by someone else as a diversion? Had she been forced to leave it in a hurry, or had she fallen off the trail? According to hikers, the Ramhead Trail is popular with tourists and not described as particularly dangerous. And apart from exposing the hiker to a lot of sunlight, it is generally thought it would involve a great deal of effort to fall off or otherwise harm yourself while walking on it. In addition, Lucy was also a very experienced hiker and familiar with this trail, so a fall seems even less likely. The search continued as authorities, including Virgin Island National Guard, launched forays into other trails, beaches, and roadsides in the Salt Pond area. Unfortunately, the immediate search was stymied by poor weather from Tropical Storm Karen, which made the challenging terrain strewn with steep inclines and heavy vegetation even more difficult to search. But soon after the storm cleared, scuba divers, snorkelers, drones, search dogs, even professional rock climbers assisted in canvassing the various crevices and hidden nooks throughout the area. Several months later that fall, after logging over 2,000 search hours, the Park Service announced it would scale back the search for Lucy. Authorities made a note they would not speculate on what had happened to her, but would continue to follow leads wherever the case may go. With nothing to go on and very little information available, Lucy's case went cold. According to sources who claim to know Lucy, she was a graduate of the University of Louisville Medical School. But in the spring before this trip, she had failed to place in a hospital internship while also doing poorly on a large exam, both of which led those who knew her to believe she may have been anxious and depressed about her future. But was she feeling bad enough to disappear forever? What her state of mind was like when she arrived in St. John's is unknown. Perhaps she was depressed, or she could simply have been looking for some alone time in a familiar place that she loved. There have been virtually no updates on this case, and so far Lucy's disappearance and the clues left behind have only created more questions for investigators. If Lucy was the victim of an accident while out exploring the park, many people think that her body or some clues of her clothing would have been found by now, but none has. Also, law enforcement mentioned early on they do not believe Lucy fell off the cliff while hiking. There also remain questions about the identities and involvement of the owner and employees of the rental property and the car rental place. What was their relationship with Lucy? Was she being followed or possibly extorted? Then there's the question if she was even on St. John's that day at all. Is it possible she went out boating with someone, took a ride in someone else's car, or took a swim, putting her into danger in the water? Given the small size and population of the island, many believe it would be difficult for her to remain undetected on land for long. Or is it possible that Lucy may have had other plans that she kept secret from everyone? Plans where she is alive and well, and living a new life somewhere else. Lucy's family has maintained their privacy and offered very little more than thank yous to those who have helped search for their daughter. Her friends and colleagues maintain a presence on social media, where they share stories, check for updates, and offer support. Although authorities have not explicitly cited foul play in Lucy's case, it has not been ruled out. Lucy Schuhmann is 5 feet 8 inches tall, 130 pounds. If you have any information on the whereabouts of Lucy Schuhmann, please contact the National Park Service's Investigative Services Branch at 888-653-0009.